Hey guys, my name is Ashley, and we are going to break down our bird of paradise pose here in this quick little video. So there's a lot that's going on in this pose. We have binding, we have a lot of standing leg strength, and then we have that hip opener while we're standing and balancing at the same time. So there is so much going on. So I want to break it down a little bit and show you how to warm up to it, as well as how to stop and work at different spots so that you can continue to build up the strength for the pose. Props that I recommend, definitely have a strap or something that you can use as a strap nearby. Make sure that is near the top of your mat. And then optional, you might like to have a block. It's always a good idea to have a block nearby, but you can definitely get away without it. So first, before we get started, I want to do a couple of warm-ups. So starting first in our mountain pose, so separate your feet hip distance apart or maybe even slightly wider. We're going to go for a shoulder rinse in our ragdoll shape. So interlace your hands at your low back and then start to pull the elbows together. Noticing the opening of the chest. Take a breath in. And then on your exhale, start to fold forward, allowing your torso to hang heavy and maybe the hands float away from the low back. Think about pulling the shoulders back and straightening the arms. So this is a great way to get started, just opening up the shoulders here. And then to come out, just gently release that bind. And from here, we're gonna sit down into our yogi squat. So heel toe your feet to the width of your mat and then point your toes out. And bend your knees and sit your hips low, bringing your hands to heart center, finding your malasana. So this is a great place to invite in a block underneath the sits bones if you need a little bit of that support so that you can focus more on opening up the hips. We have our elbows inside our knees, pressing our elbows into the knees, but also pressing our knees back into our elbows, so getting that double engagement. And then adding on, we're gonna take a few steps back into our lizard pose from here. So make sure you're at the top of your mat in your yogi squat. From here, we'll bring our hands down and we'll take a big step back with that right leg. Option to keep the active leg or drop your knee down to the mat. Make sure your hands are holding your weight equally, and then check in with this front knee. Make sure your front knee is not passing your ankle, so this is not what we're looking for. Go ahead and pull that back. And then you can take a few breaths here, maybe rocking the hips back and forth. Starting to open up the hips, and maybe even working your shoulder inside your knee. To work on building that leg strength, we'll take our big step back up into our yogi squat. So take a breath in as you prepare, and on your exhale, take a big step up. And again, sink your hips, coming back into your yogi squat. Then we'll move into the other side, open up the right hip a little bit. As you're ready, bring your hands down onto the mat, and then step back with that left leg. Again, you can stay active and keep the knee lifted, or you can lower the knee down. As long as you're keeping equal weight in the hands, stacking the joints, your shoulders are over your wrists. And again, checking in with your right knee. Maybe from here, taking a few rocks back and forth. Staying with your breath. And just checking in with the hip. If your back knee is not already lifted, go ahead and lift it up. And then take a breath in. And as you exhale, step back forward, again, finding your yogi squat back to center. So those are really great options to work on opening up the hips as well as starting to get a little bit of that strength building. And then from here, we're gonna step back into our downward facing dog. So planting your hands shoulder distance. And then step your feet back so they're about hip distance apart. We're gonna go through a short little flow and I'll show you how to enter bird of paradise through our extended side angle. From your down dog, on your inhale, lift your right leg high. As you exhale, take a big step up between your hands. And then spin your back heel down 90 degrees, and on your inhale, rise, coming into your warrior two. So before we move into bird of paradise, I want to show you one more standing pose variation to start to open up the hips here. We're going to move into humble warrior. So interlace your hands at your low back. And again, think about pulling the elbows together, straightening the arms if you can. Take a breath in, open the chest. As you exhale, hinge forward at the hips. And again, maybe the hands come away from the low back. You can let your head hang heavy here. And then think about working the shoulder inside the knee. Use an inhale to come back up into your warrior two. Open your arms out and locate your strap. Bring your strap into your back hand. Starting from here, take a breath in. And as you exhale, come into your side angle variation. So your left arm reaches up. You can bring that front forearm to your thigh to start. And then from here, we'll start with a half bind. So bending the elbow and bringing your left hand behind your low back. From here, reach your right arm underneath your leg and reach for the opposite end of the strap. Make sure you pull your torso back so we're not collapsing our chest down towards the mat. We want to stay open to the side. This is a really great place to stay and work, especially if you're still working on getting that bind. But if you want to try and move into bird of paradise with the strap, bring your gaze forward, and we're going to take a big step up with that back leg. So step forward. And then left leg is our standing leg. So start to unweight the right foot. Pull that right knee in towards your armpit. Press away with the left foot and slowly rise. Lifting your torso. Keep your gaze focused on something that's not moving and find your steadiness in your focal point. Our focus first and foremost is going to be that standing leg. So working on a straight standing leg first. And then once we reach that, maybe thinking about extending that lifted leg, pointing the toes. To come out, we're going to slowly lower. Plant that right foot, and we'll take a big step back, coming back into our side angle. You can set your strap aside if you're using that, and then slowly release your bind, opening your arms out. Take a full breath here. And then as you exhale, bring that left hand down, spin your hips down towards the mat, and take a step back, coming back into downward facing dog. And we'll take that on the other side. I'll have my back to you so that you can see both views. From here on your inhale, lift your left leg high. And as you exhale, step between the hands. Spin your back heel down 90 degrees. And as you inhale, rise, come into your warrior two. We'll take that humble warrior variation on this side. So interlacing your hands at your low back, and then open the chest and try and pull the elbows together. Straightening the arms if you can. Take a breath. As you exhale, hinge at the hips and fold forward, staying in the lunge, working your left shoulder inside your left knee. Maybe the hands are reaching up. On your next inhale, slowly rise, coming back into your warrior two. And then locate your strap. Bring your strap into your right hand this time. From your warrior two, take a breath in. And as you exhale, come into your side angle, reaching that right arm up. And then we'll start with our half bind. So bend at the elbow, bringing your hand behind your back. And then reach under your left leg with that left hand and reach for the opposite end of the strap. Think about pulling your top shoulder back, stacking the shoulders, stacking the hips. See if you can work your shoulder inside your knee. And this is a great place to stay, or if you want to move into the pose on this side, bring the gaze forward, take a big step up with that back leg. Right leg is our standing leg this time, so start to unweight the left toes and slowly press away with the right foot. Coming up slow and steady. Make sure that right leg is completely active. And once it is straight, then we'll think about straightening that left leg. Point the toes See if you can pull your left elbow back in line with the shoulder. To come out, we'll slowly lower that lifted foot and take a big step back, coming back into our side angle. From here, we can set the strap aside and open back up into our side angle. Take a breath. As you exhale, bring that right hand down, spin your hips down towards the mat, and then plant the hands and take a step back to your downward facing dog. From here, you can lower your knees and sit back on your heels. Just take a few moments sitting up nice and tall with a neutral spine, maybe closing the eyes and coming back to the breath. So a couple things about that pose. It's not about how straight you can get that lifted leg. It's about how straight and how strong the standing leg is. If you're noticing a lot of wobbling as you are coming up and standing in that pose before you even open up that lifted leg, try and focus on that focal point. Pick one point and then don't look away from it no matter what happens. Like I said before, there is so much going on in this pose. There's the balance, there's a hip opener, there's the bind, there's the breath, right? The most important thing is to make sure that you can breathe wherever you are, whatever place that you are stopping and working on. Think of it as like stair-stepping your way up to these bigger poses, right? There's always those modifications that you can take to work on certain parts, work on opening the hips, working on opening up the chest and getting that bind. So wherever you are, whatever variation that you are in your practice in this moment, know that you are in the pose, you are in Bird of Paradise, right? One of the most profound insights that one of my yoga teachers gave me once was that variations of the pose are the poses, right? It's not a lesser pose because we modify, right? We have to do what we need to do to honor our body. One thing that I highly recommend is making sure that you are completely warmed up before even trying to get into these poses. Otherwise, you're just going to be frustrated and give yourself a hard time, or at least that's was my experience. So make sure your body is completely warmed up. Do a couple sun A's, a couple sun B's, and then work into the pose, going through that side angle like we just looked. Thanks, guys.